The second my own face filled that giant projector screen, zoomed in so close you could count every wrinkle, every chin crease, every stunned expression, the whole room exploded in laughter. "Brew, look at Grandma!" Ashley shrieked. "Tell me this isn't meme-worthy." Yeah, that sound. That was my heart cracking right down the middle. I was sitting right there, 3 feet away, close enough to see my reflection in the screen while her friends howled like it was open mic night. And the worst part? She didn't even look guilty. If you've ever been embarrassed by someone you loved, hit that like button. If you believe elders deserve respect, drop a comment. And if you want to hear how this 72-year-old grandmother flipped the script so hard the internet took my side, stay with me. Because this isn't just a story. This is a reckoning. My name is Margaret Lawson. 72 years old. Born and raised in Ohio. Widow. Mother of 3. Grandmother of 5. Retired school librarian. I have baked thousands of pies, patched scraped knees, paid for braces, and sat through every dance recital and little league game anyone ever invited me to. I am not fragile. I am not clueless. And I am definitely not a punchline. But that night, in my own son Daniel's suburban home in Columbus, I was reduced to a slideshow. It started innocently. Or so I thought. Ashley had asked me earlier that week if she could borrow some old family photos for a school media project. "It's about generational fashion evolution, Grandma," she'd said, all sweet smile and honey voice. "You looked iconic in the 70s. Iconic? I should have known right there. But I trusted her. Because that's what grandmothers do. We trust. Saturday night, Daniel and his wife were out at some couple's dinner. Ashley convinced them to let her have a few friends over, just to hang out and work on the project. I happened to be staying the weekend. There were 7 teenagers in that living room. Loud. Restless. Phones out. Energy buzzing. And then she dimmed the lights. "Okay guys, I have to show you this before we start editing." The projector flickered on. The first image? Me. Last Thanksgiving. Mid-bite. Mouth open. Eyes half closed. Turkey gravy on my chin. The room erupted. "Oh my God. She looks possessed. Is this real?" Ashley fell back on the couch laughing so hard she was gasping. "I swear she doesn't even know I took it." That part. That part hit different. She hadn't asked. She'd been secretly snapping photos of me for months. At dinner tables. On the porch. While I napped in my recliner. Every awkward angle. Every unflattering expression. Cataloged. For content. The slides kept coming. Me bending over to pick up my purse. Zoomed in. Me squinting at my phone, captioned. "When you forget your password for the 8th time." Me dancing at my birthday party. Slowed down, replayed again. The kids were crying laughing. And I sat there, hands folded, face burning, feeling about 2 inches tall. Not one of them looked at me like I was a person. I was material. Ashley finally glanced my way through her laughter. "Grandma, relax. It's funny. You don't even care about this stuff." You don't care. That's what young people assume about us, isn't it? That because we've lived longer, we feel less. But I felt everything. The disrespect. The betrayal. The public humiliation. And in that moment, I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't storm upstairs. I smiled. A slow, calm, almost gentle smile. Because here's what Ashley didn't know. I may be 72, but I understand technology just fine. And I had my own recordings. She thought she was documenting me. Oh honey. She had no idea I had been documenting her too. And what I did next, well, let's just say the internet has a long memory. If you think this ends with me crying in a rocking chair, you don't know Margaret Lawson. You know what hurt the most? It wasn't the laughter. It was the certainty in Ashley's eyes. That calm, casual confidence that said, "Grandma won't do anything." She really believed I was outdated, harmless, technologically illiterate. Sweetheart, I may not post thirst traps, but I know how Wi-Fi works. Let me tell you something about being 72 in 2026. We're not sitting around knitting and forgetting passwords all day. Some of us run online banking. Some of us invest in crypto. Some of us attend Zoom book clubs and FaceTime relatives across 3 states. And some of us, we observe. Very carefully. You see, a few months ago my son Daniel installed a smart home security system. Motion cameras in the living room. Doorbell camera. Cloud storage. Automatic backup. He set it up on his phone. And mine. Just in case, Mom, he said. So you can check the house if we're traveling. He forgot one thing. Those cameras don't just capture burglars. They capture everything. Including Ashley. Including her private moments. Including the things she would absolutely never want projected on a 120-inch screen. Now don't misunderstand me. I wasn't spying. I rarely even opened the app. But sometimes, when I couldn't sleep, I'd scroll through clips the way other people scroll TikTok. Teenagers don't realize how loud they are when they think adults aren't paying attention. I had footage of her practicing fake crying for Snapchat. Footage of her mocking her own friends the second they left the room. Footage of her bragging about manipulating boys for attention. Ah yes, Miss Grandma's meme material had her own highlight reel. And I never said a word. Not that night. When the slideshow ended and her friends finally shuffled upstairs for pizza, I stood slowly. Ashley was still laughing, wiping mascara tears from her eyes. Grandma, you're not mad, right? She said casually. It was just a joke. Just a joke. I looked at her, really looked at her. 16 years old. Confident. Influencer dreams. 48,000 followers on TikTok. Obsessed with going viral. No, sweetheart, I said softly. I'm not mad. And I wasn't. Mad is loud. I was something else. I was deliberate. That night in the guest bedroom, I opened my laptop. Ah. You should have seen her face if she knew I even owned one. I logged into the security cloud storage. And I started downloading clips. Not the cruel ones. Not the illegal ones. I'm not heartless. Just the truth. Ashley mocking her best friend's acne. Ashley rehearsing fake apologies. Ashley saying, and I quote, "Old people are basically expired humans." Expired. I let that one replay 3 times. Now before you judge me, understand this. I didn't plan to destroy her. I planned to teach her. There's a difference. Respect isn't inherited. It's learned. And sometimes the lesson has to sting. The next morning, Ashley was on the couch scrolling her phone. Probably editing my humiliation into some cute little montage. You sat beside her. Sweetheart, I said gently. Do you know what digital footprint means? She didn't even look up. Yeah, Grandma. It's like stuff you post. Ah. No, I said. It's everything. That got her attention. But I didn't elaborate. Not yet. Instead, I baked cinnamon rolls. Cleaned the kitchen. Kissed her forehead when I left. And then I drove home. Quiet. Calm. With a flash drive in my purse. Because here's the thing about viral culture. If you can humiliate someone publicly for laughs, you better pray you're spotless. And Ashley was not spotless. You ever notice how quiet a house feels when you're about to change someone's life? I got home that Sunday afternoon, placed my purse on the kitchen table, and took out that small silver flash drive like it was a piece of evidence in a courtroom. Because in a way it was. Ashley thought humiliation was entertainment. She thought projecting my awkward photos in front of her friends made her powerful. But she forgot one thing. I raised her father. I survived high school in the 1960s. And I understand reputation in ways this generation barely scratches the surface of. Now before your mind runs wild. No, I didn't plan to expose her secrets in some cruel, vindictive way. I'm not a monster. I'm a grandmother. And grandmothers teach lessons. The difference? We play the long game. I sat down at my laptop. Yes, my very modern, password-protected, fingerprint-enabled laptop. And created a folder titled, Digital Footprint, Educational Use. Ah. I couldn't help but smile at that. Inside it, I organized the clips carefully. Date stamped. Labeled. Context included. Ashley practicing fake tears for sympathy views. Ashley saying, "If you cry on camera, people eat that up." Ashley mocking her best friend's thrift store clothes. Ashley rolling her eyes and saying, "Old people are expired humans. They just take up space." That one still had a little bite to it. I watched it again. Not out of anger. Out of clarity. Now here's what Ashley didn't know. I volunteer twice a week at the community center teaching seniors how to use social media safely. We talk about scams, privacy, online bullying, viral culture. And next month, they were hosting a teen and tech responsibility workshop. Parents and teenagers invited. Guest speakers discussing online accountability. Guess who had been asked months ago to share a few thoughts about intergenerational understanding? That's right. Me. Margaret Lawson. Expired human. Ah. The universe has timing, doesn't it? I didn't upload anything that night. I didn't post a single clip. Instead, I sent an email to the workshop coordinator. Subject line: Presentation Edition, Real-Life Examples. I offered to include anonymized footage demonstrating how casual digital cruelty can escalate, how quickly humor turns into public humiliation. She loved the idea. Real-world context resonates best, she replied. Oh, it would resonate. Now let me be clear. I blurred faces. I muted names. But the voices? Those were unmistakable. Ashley's tone. Ashley's slang. Ashley's laugh. And when teenagers hear their own words echoed back in a room full of adults, it hits different. The week passed quietly. Ashley texted me memes. Selfies. As if nothing had happened. Grandma, did you see the edit I made? It's so funny, lol. I responded with a heart emoji. Because I needed her relaxed. Unaware. Saturday arrived. The workshop room at the community center was packed. Parents in folding chairs. Teenagers slouched beside them, phones in hand. Ashley was there too. Her mother had insisted. It'll look good on college applications, she'd said. Ashley sat 3 rows back, arms crossed, bored expression fully activated. She didn't look at me when I walked to the podium. Why would she? I was just grandma. I began gently. Spoke about respect. Generational gaps. How technology magnifies behavior. Heads nodded. Polite claps. Then I said, I'd like to show you something. A small example of how easily we forget that cameras work both ways. The screen behind me lit up. First clip. A teenage girl laughing, saying, "Old people are expired humans." The room shifted. Some parents stiffened. Some teens snickered nervously. Second clip. Same voice. "If you cry on camera, people eat that up." Third clip. Mocking a friend's appearance. I didn't say her name. I didn't need to. Ashley's face drained of color. Her body went still in that chair. Because she recognized her own voice. And so did the other teens in the room. Whispers started. Phones slowly lowered. I paused the video. Now, I said calmly. Imagine if this footage were uploaded publicly. Imagine if colleges, employers, or scholarship boards saw it. Silence. Heavy silence. Ashley finally looked at me. Not laughing. Not confident. Just aware. Ah. There it was. Understanding. But I wasn't done. Let me slow this down for you. Because what happened next wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. And quiet can be terrifying. The room at the community center was still frozen after that third clip played. Parents were stiff. Teenagers suddenly very interested in the floor. The air felt heavy, like everyone realized this wasn't just some cute lecture about screen time anymore. It was real. I stepped away from the podium and let the silence sit. I've spent 35 years as a librarian. Trust me, silence is a powerful tool. Then I said calmly, the young woman in these clips is not evil. She's not bad. She's not broken. She's just careless. And carelessness online can become permanent faster than you can delete a post. I didn't look at Ashley yet. I addressed the whole room. We live in a world where humiliation is entertainment. Where embarrassing someone can earn you followers. Where a viral moment feels more important than someone's dignity. A few parents nodded slowly. Some teens shifted uncomfortably. Then I finally turned my eyes toward her. Ashley was sitting rigid in her chair. Her cheeks were pale. Her phone was face down in her lap, a rare sight. Now imagine, I continued gently, that the person you mocked had access to your worst moments. Imagine if they chose to retaliate publicly. That word hung in the air. Retaliate. Ashley swallowed. I could see it. She understood. After the presentation ended, people approached me, thanked me, complimented the real-life example. A few parents whispered that they wished their own kids could hear something like that at home. Ashley didn't move. She stayed seated until the room nearly emptied. Finally, when it was just the two of us and the workshop coordinator stacking chairs, she stood and walked toward me. Her confidence? Gone. "Grandma," she said quietly. "Not grandma like usual. Just grandma." Was that me? Ah. There it was. I didn't smile. I didn't scold. "Yes," I said simply. Her eyes filled slightly. Not dramatic, not fake, just shaken. "You recorded me?" "No." Y correcta calmly. "The house security system did. The same way you recorded me." That hit hard. She blinked. "You were going to post it, weren't you? Now here's the part you've been waiting for. The revenge. The big viral takedown. But real power? Is knowing you don't have to use it." "I could have," I said evenly. "I still can." And I let that truth sit there. I downloaded the clips. I have them. I know how to upload them. I know how to tag colleges. I know how to send links. Her breath hitched slightly. Ah. Now she understood digital footprint. But I didn't. I continued. Because humiliation isn't correction. It's just more humiliation. She stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. "I didn't think you cared," she whispered. "That one hurt. I cared enough to sit there while you laughed at me," I replied softly. "I cared enough not to explode. And I care enough to give you a choice." She frowned slightly. "A choice?" "Yes." I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "You can continue building your online persona by tearing others down. And one day someone less patient than me will return the favor." Her throat tightened. "Or," I continued, "you can apologize. Publicly. Not because I demand it, but because you understand it." Silence. She looked small in that moment. Not influencer small. Not confident teen small. Just 16. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said, voice trembling. "It was just content." "Content is made of real people," I said gently. She wiped her eyes quickly, embarrassed. "Did mom and dad see it?" "No. Y ensuerat. This was between you and me." Her shoulders dropped in relief, but also realization. "You could ruin me," she whispered. Ah. There it was. Power. And I shook my head slowly. "No. Ashley. I could expose you. But ruin? You do that to yourself." We stood there for a long moment. Then she surprised me. "Can I delete the slideshow?" she asked. "Yes. And I'll post something else." I raised an eyebrow. "What kind of something else?" She inhaled deeply. "An apology. And maybe a video about respecting older people." Ah. Now we were talking. But here's the twist. The internet wasn't done yet. Because while I hadn't posted her clips, someone else had recorded her projector night. Ah. You know what they say about teenagers? They record everything. Everything. 3 days after that workshop, I was sitting at my kitchen table, sipping chamomile tea, when my phone buzzed. It was my neighbor Carol. Now Carol doesn't text unless it's serious. "Margaret, is this your granddaughter?" And below it, a link. I felt something cold settle in my chest. I tapped it. And there it was. A video uploaded to TikTok by one of Ashley's friends. Filmed the night of the projector incident. The caption read, "When your friend roasts her grandma for clout skull skull." The clip showed my face frozen on that 120-inch screen. The laughter. Ashley's voice yelling. She doesn't even know I took it. And then the comments. Oh, the comments. Why is she bullying her own grandma? That's actually messed up. Grandma deserves better. This ain't funny. That's cruel. Ah. See, Ashley thought humiliation was universal humor. But Gen Z? They turn fast. The video had already hit 38,000 views. And climbing. My hands were steady. My breathing calm. But my heart? Oh, it was doing something complicated. Not anger. Not satisfaction. Just inevitability. Ashley called me 10 minutes later. Crying. Not fake Snapchat tears. Real ones. Grandma, it's everywhere, she sobbed. They're calling me heartless. Someone stitched it and said I'm abusive. My DMs are insane. Ah. Consequences. They arrive loud. I didn't post it, I said quietly. I know, she whispered. I know you didn't. That mattered. She knew I hadn't retaliated. But the internet? The internet doesn't wait for permission. By evening, the video crossed 100,000 views. A few larger accounts reshared it. One captioned, "Normalize respecting your elders." Another, "If my grandma looks like this, I'm protecting her at all costs." Ah. That one made me smile a little. Ashley's follower count began dropping. Then came the apology video. She posted it at 9:47 p.m. No makeup. No filters. No music. Just her. I messed up, she said plainly. Because revenge teaches fear, I said calmly. But accountability teaches character. She swallowed slowly. I thought you were weak, she admitted softly, for not saying anything that night. Ah. There it was again. Perception. I wasn't weak, I replied gently. I was choosing the battlefield. Her eyes widened slightly, and for the first time in this entire saga, she smiled. A small one. Respectful. But don't get it twisted. The story isn't over. Because even though Ashley apologized, the internet has a long memory. And someone unexpected, decided to reach out to me directly. 3 days after Ashley's apology video went viral, I received an email that changed the direction of everything. It wasn't from a neighbor or a distant relative. It was from a producer at a digital media company based in Chicago. They had seen both clips, the original humiliation video and Ashley's apology, and they wanted to know if I would be willing to share my perspective in an interview about generational respect in the age of viral culture. I stared at the screen for a long time before responding. This was no longer a private family matter. It had become a conversation piece. Comment sections were debating it. Teachers were sharing it. Parents were tagging their teenagers. What began as a careless moment in a suburban living room had turned into something much larger. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I called Ashley. Her voice was quieter these days. More thoughtful. They want to interview me, I told her plainly. There was a pause on the other end. Not panicked, just processing. Are you going to do it? She asked carefully. I haven't decided yet. Another pause. Then she said something that surprised me. If you do, I want to be there. That mattered. She wasn't hiding anymore. 2 days later, we sat side by side in my living room while a small camera crew adjusted lighting equipment. Nothing flashy. Because revenge teaches fear, I said calmly. But accountability teaches character. She swallowed slowly. I thought you were weak, she admitted softly, for not saying anything that night. Ah. There it was again. Perception. I wasn't weak, I replied gently. I was choosing the battlefield. Her eyes widened slightly, and for the first time in this entire saga, she smiled. A small one. Respectful. But don't get it twisted. The story isn't over. Because even though Ashley apologized, the internet has a long memory. And someone unexpected, decided to reach out to me directly. 3 days after Ashley's apology video went viral, I received an email that changed the direction of everything. It wasn't from a neighbor or a distant relative. It was from a producer at a digital media company based in Chicago. They had seen both clips, the original humiliation video and Ashley's apology, and they wanted to know if I would be willing to share my perspective in an interview about generational respect in the age of viral culture. I stared at the screen for a long time before responding. This was no longer a private family matter. It had become a conversation piece. Comment sections were debating it. Teachers were sharing it. Parents were tagging their teenagers. What began as a careless moment in a suburban living room had turned into something much larger. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I called Ashley. Her voice was quieter these days. More thoughtful. They want to interview me, I told her plainly. There was a pause on the other end. Not panicked, just processing. Are you going to do it? She asked carefully. I haven't decided yet. Another pause. Then she said something that surprised me. If you do, I want to be there. That mattered. She wasn't hiding anymore. 2 days later, we sat side by side in my living room while a small camera crew adjusted lighting equipment. Nothing flashy. No. I correcta gently. You would have deserved consequences. Not destruction. There's a difference. Consequences teach. Destruction érase. And I never wanted to erase her. I wanted her to understand that power, especially digital power, comes with responsibility. That recording someone without consent and turning them into entertainment chips away at trust. That viral laughter can echo long after the joke fades. She leaned against the counter and looked at me with a new kind of steadiness. I don't think of you as expired anymore, she said softly. I couldn't help but laugh at that. I should hope not. But beneath the humor was something deeper. Respect had been rebuilt. Not demanded, not forced, but earned through confrontation and restraint. The most surprising part of this entire journey wasn't the viral moment or the interview or the online discourse. It was the private shift. Ashley now asks before she records anything in my presence. She explains trends instead of assuming I won't understand them. She sits with me sometimes without her phone in her hand. And I, in return, ask her about the world she lives in instead of dismissing it as shallow. That's the real revenge, if you want to call it that. Not public embarrassment. Not exposure. Transformation. Because the strongest position you can hold is not the one where you humiliate someone back. It's the one where you make them grow. But here's something I haven't told you yet. There was one clip I never showed anyone. One recording from that projector night that Ashley still doesn't know I have. There is one recording I never showed at the workshop. One moment from that night that no one has seen. Not the internet. Not the producers. Not even Ashley. And I've kept it for a reason. When I first downloaded the security footage after the projector incident, I reviewed everything carefully. Most of it was loud, chaotic, immature laughter. Typical teenage energy amplified by group dynamics. But near the end of the recording, after the jokes, after the zoom-ins, after the slow-motion replays, there was a quieter moment. Ashley thought everyone had stopped paying attention. She thought the camera angle couldn't see her clearly. Her friends were grabbing pizza from the kitchen, still laughing. The projector screen had frozen on my face mid-expression. The room was dim. And Ashley stayed behind for a second. She looked at the screen. Not laughing. Not performing. Just looking. Then she said something under her breath. She's gonna be hurt. One of her friends called from the kitchen. You coming? And like flipping a switch, she laughed again and ran after them. That was the clip. Not the cruelty. Not the mockery. The hesitation. The awareness. That's the one I kept. Because that moment told me something important. She wasn't heartless. She was insecure. She was performing for approval. She knew, at least for a split second, that she had crossed a line. Teenagers often do know when they've gone too far. They just don't always have the courage to stop. That clip changed how I approached everything that followed. If she had shown no awareness, no flicker of conscience, I might have handled things differently. But that small whisper, that almost regret, told me there was still something solid inside her. That's why I didn't upload anything. That's why I chose the workshop instead of public retaliation. That's why I framed it as accountability rather than exposure. Because punishment without room for growth turns people defensive. But confrontation paired with dignity forces reflection. A few weeks after the interview aired, Ashley and I were sitting on my porch watching the sunset. She had been quieter lately, more thoughtful in general. Can I ask you something? She said. Of course. Did you ever almost post those videos of me? Like really almost? I didn't lie. Yes. She nodded slowly. I would have freaked out. I know. There was a long pause. Why didn't you? I looked out at the fading orange sky before answering. Because I saw something in you that you didn't see in yourself yet. She frowned slightly. What? Guilt. Her eyes widened. You noticed? I notice everything, I said calmly. That's the advantage of being expired. She laughed softly at that. Then her expression grew serious again. I was scared you hated me. I was disappointed, I corrected gently. But hatred is heavy. I don't carry heavy things anymore. That conversation mattered more than the viral apology, more than the interview, more than the comment sections. It was private honesty. And here's the truth most people won't say out loud. Revenge feels powerful in the moment. Restraint feels powerful for a lifetime. If I had exposed her worst moments online, yes, I might have won the public battle. People would have cheered. Comment sections would have crowned me the savage grandmother of the year. But what would that have done to our relationship? It would have taught her fear of me, not respect. Now she respects me. And more importantly, she understands why. The clip still sits on my external hard drive. Password protected. Labeled only with the date. Not as leverage. Not as insurance. But as a reminder. A reminder that before someone becomes cruel publicly, there's often a private moment where they hesitate. If you can catch that hesitation, if you can speak to that conscience, you can change the trajectory. Ashley hasn't called anyone expired since. In fact, last week she posted a video titled, "Things My Grandma Taught Me About Power." It wasn't flashy. It wasn't dramatic. It was sincere. And I watched it twice. But let me tell you something else. Growth doesn't mean perfection. Growth is beautiful. But growth gets tested. About 2 months after everything settled down, I started noticing something new in my inbox. Messages. Direct messages. Comments. Not about Ashley this time, about me. At first they were kind. "You're the grandma we all need. Adopt me, please." You handled that with so much class. I appreciated the warmth. I truly did. But then the tone shifted. "Expose her again if she slips. You should have ruined her when you had the chance. Drop the rest of the footage. She deserves it." Ah, there it was. The internet doesn't just love redemption stories. It loves blood. People had begun turning me into a symbol, a kind of online avenger, the calm grandmother who could destroy a teenager with one upload. They wanted drama. They wanted escalation. They wanted me to become what Ashley had been that night. Someone using humiliation as entertainment. It unsettled me. One evening, Ashley came over after school. She had been quieter in general, but more grounded. She was helping me organize old photo albums when her phone buzzed repeatedly. Her expression changed. "What is it?" I asked. She hesitated. "Some account reposted the original projector clip again. It's trending again." I felt a familiar tightness in my chest, but I kept my voice steady. And people are tagging you. Saying you should respond. Saying I probably haven't changed. She looked smaller in that moment than she had at the workshop. Not because she was scared of being exposed. Because she was scared of disappointing me again. That was new. "I haven't done anything like that since," she said quickly. "I swear." "I know," I replied calmly. She blinked. "You do." "I pay attention," I said gently. "But not the way you think. Growth isn't measured by the absence of mistakes. It's measured by consistency after accountability." And I had been watching, not through cameras this time, but through conversation, through tone, through effort. She had shifted. Not perfectly, but genuinely. The next morning, a larger commentary channel reached out to me asking for a reaction video. They wanted me to publicly address the resurfaced drama. They even offered compensation. I declined. Instead, I did something quieter. I posted a short written statement on my own small social media page. Nothing dramatic. No accusations. No scam. I wrote, "Accountability is not a life sentence. It is an opportunity. My granddaughter apologized, changed her behavior, and continues to grow. I will not participate in cycles of humiliation, even when they're profitable." That post didn't explode like the others had. But it traveled steadily. Teachers shared it. A parenting blog quoted it. A youth counselor messaged me asking permission to print it for workshops. Ashley read it that evening. "You defended me," she said softly. "I protected the lesson. I corrected." She sat down across from me, quiet for a long moment. "I used to think power meant being the loudest," she admitted. "Or the funniest. Or the most viral." "And now?" I asked. She looked at me with a steadier kind of confidence. Now I think it's being the one who doesn't need to prove anything. Ah, that right there? That's when I knew the lesson had rooted itself. The internet eventually moved on as it always does. New drama, new villains, new entertainment. But something fundamental had shifted between us. Respect had replaced performance. Trust had replaced fear. And I no longer kept that unseen clip as a precaution. I kept it as history. Because here's the truth most people miss. The real revenge was never about posting her worst moments. It was about refusing to become someone who would. But life has a sense of humor. Just when we thought the story had closed, an unexpected opportunity arrived that would test everything we had rebuilt. The real test of change isn't what someone does when you're watching. It's what they do when you're not there to protect them. 3 months after the projector incident, Ashley was invited to speak on a youth digital responsibility panel at her high school. Not because of the humiliation video, but because of the apology that followed. The guidance counselor had seen the interview we did, and believed students might listen to someone their own age who had lived through public backlash. When she told me about it, she looked nervous. "They want me to talk about what I learned," she said, sitting at my kitchen counter. "But what if people think I'm fake? Like I'm just doing it for image repair?" "That's possible," I answered honestly. She blinked, surprised I didn't sugarcoat it. "But," I continued, "you can't control whether people doubt you. You can only control whether you're sincere." She nodded slowly. The night before the panel, she asked if I would help her write her speech. I shook my head gently. "No," I said. Her face fell slightly. "Why not?" "Because this time," I replied calmly, "the words need to be yours." That wasn't punishment. That was trust. The next afternoon, I sat in the back row of the high school auditorium. Not on stage. Not spotlighted. Just another adult in a folding chair. Ashley walked up to the podium alone. No dramatic music. No edited clips. No filters. Just her. She took a deep breath before speaking. "I used to think embarrassing someone was harmless if everyone laughed," she began. "I thought if it got views it was worth it." There was a quiet ripple through the students seated in front of her. She continued steadily. "I embarrassed my grandma for attention. And when the video blew up, I realized something. The internet doesn't just amplify your jokes. It amplifies your character." That line was hers. I had never said it that way. And it was good. She didn't paint herself as a victim of cancel culture. She didn't blame peer pressure. She admitted that she enjoyed the attention at the time. She admitted that she ignored the small voice telling her it was wrong. Then she said something that made my throat tighten unexpectedly. My grandma could have exposed my worst moments. She had them. She had proof. But she chose not to. And that choice taught me more than punishment would have. The room was silent. Teenagers can be ruthless. They can also be perceptive. One student raised his hand during Q&A. "So like, if your grandma had posted the videos of you, do you think you would have changed faster?" Ashley paused before answering. "No," she said finally. "I would have gotten defensive. I would have blamed her. I probably would have hated her for it. Instead, she let me sit with what I did. And that made it mine to fix." That was the moment I realized something important. The story wasn't about me anymore. It had shifted to her accountability. After the panel ended, several students approached her privately. I couldn't hear what they said, but I saw their expressions, serious, reflective. One girl hugged her. Ashley walked toward me afterward, looking both relieved and exhausted. "How was it?" she asked. "You didn't perform," I said simply. "You spoke." She smiled faintly. "I was terrified." "Good," I replied gently. "That means it mattered." On the drive home, she said something that surprised me. "I don't think of you as the person who could ruin me anymore," she said. "I think of you as the person who trusted me to fix myself." That trust? That was the real risk I took. Because if she hadn't grown, if she had doubled down, blamed everyone else, continued mocking people online, I would have had to reconsider my restraint. But she didn't. And now, the narrative was no longer about humiliation or revenge. It was about responsibility. Still, there was one final conversation we hadn't had. One that would close the loop completely. Because while Ashley had apologized publicly, she had never truly heard what that night felt like from my side. Not in full. There was one piece of this story I had never fully given Ashley. Not the lesson. Not the strategy. Not the consequences. The feeling. We had talked about accountability. We had talked about digital footprints and respect and growth. But I had never described, in complete honesty, what it felt like to sit there while my own granddaughter turned me into a punchline. And closure requires truth. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon when it finally happened. Ashley had come over with no agenda, no panel, no project, no performance. We were sorting through old recipe cards at my dining table, when she said softly, "Grandma, can I ask you something?" Of course. What did it actually feel like? That night. I set the recipe card down carefully. This was the conversation. I didn't rush my answer. It felt, I began slowly, like I disappeared. She frowned slightly. Disappeared. Yes, I said. Not physically, but as a person. I explained it fully. When that image went up on the screen and everyone laughed, I realized I wasn't in the room as your grandmother anymore. I wasn't the woman who read you bedtime stories. I wasn't the person who sat in hospital waiting rooms when you were sick. I wasn't history or love or family. I paused. I was content. Her eyes dropped to the table. I felt small. I continued. Not because of wrinkles or an awkward expression. I've earned every line on my face. I felt small because the relationship felt erased in that moment. The room was quiet except for the ticking wall clock. I didn't cry because I've lived long enough to know emotions pass, I said gently. But I did grieve something. I grieved the idea that you saw me as safe to humiliate. That made her inhale sharply. I never thought of it like that, she whispered. I know, I replied. That was the problem. We sat with that truth for a while. Then she asked the question that had been lingering beneath everything. Did you ever stop loving me for a second? Teenagers ask that question even when they don't say it directly. No, I answered without hesitation. But I did lose trust. She nodded slowly, absorbing that. Trust, I continued, is fragile. It rebuilds slower than it breaks. But you rebuilt it. Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't let them fall dramatically. There was no performance left in her anymore. I hate that I made you feel invisible, she said quietly. And I'm proud that you hate it, I responded. Because that was the difference between shame and growth. Shame says, I'm a terrible person. Growth says, I did something terrible, and I won't repeat it. She reached across the table and took my hand. I see you now, she said. Simple words. Heavy meaning. I squeezed her hand gently. Good, I replied. Because one day you'll be my age. And the world will try to make you feel invisible too. She smiled faintly through tears. I won't let it. We finished sorting the recipe cards in comfortable silence after that. No tensión. No unspoken resentment. Just understanding. That night, after she left, I opened my laptop one last time and found that hidden clip. The one where she whispered, she's gonna be hurt. I watched it carefully. Then I deleted it. Not out of anger. Not out of fear. But because I no longer needed it. The lesson had rooted itself. The relationship had strengthened. The power had been used wisely. Revenge would have been loud. Restraint was transformative. If you've stayed with me through this entire journey, remember this. Dignity doesn't mean weakness. Silence doesn't mean ignorance. And age does not erase worth. Sometimes the strongest move you can make is the one you choose not to. And sometimes, the deepest victory isn't exposing someone's worst moment. It's helping them become better than it. If this story touched your heart, please do like, comment, and subscribe my channel.